Hello there, welcome to the show. Today I'm going to talk about the Sabata trilogy, which you can see in this wonderful box set, which is from Eureka, obviously. You get 3 films. I'm not sure if these are no longer even in print now, this version, because I bought it ages ago and finally watched it. So you have Sabata, Adious Sabata, and Return of Sabata. All directed by well, I'm going to get the name wrong, so I'll get it right here. So it's where the hell is... Right, I'm going to have to go back here. Gianfranco Parolini. That's it. It's like trying to get these names, you always forget. Unless they're the obvious ones, you always forget them. Right, so Parolini did Satana, the first Satana film, but didn't do the sequel, so he moved into the Sabata series, which are basically gimmick westerns. These are not like serious westerns like The Searchers or Red River or something. They're much more influenced by the Dollars trilogy, and they're trying to do a Smart Alice Dollar trilogy, but even more absurd and more into the comedy area, where the darkness isn't really there. So they bring in Lee Van Cleef to play Sabata twice, and the other Sabata is Yul Brynner. Now, I should point out that none of these films started off as a Sabata series. I think Sabata, the first one, became Sabata as the original title was a bit weird, so they called it Sabata because the name was Sabata, so that was it. And then Adios Sabata was the character's name was Indio Black, and ultimately changed, just dubbed it a little bit to call him Sabata because the first Sabata made so much money, so they just acted as if like Lee Van Cleef had been recast as Yul Brynner because it was the same director and the same type of film of like a con man situation where you're with a character in a kind of long con where people are betraying each other, and only Sabata has a clue what's really going on. And finally, you have the Return of Sabata, which is actually as a kind of sequel, even though Sabata seemed to have lost all the money made in the first film. So it feels like a sequel name only, with the character Sabata is similar, has the same dress sense, but doesn't feel exactly like you would in a sequel nowadays where everything would have some sort of lore. This is just like, with a Lee Van Cleef, same costume, same director, same type of movie, but you don't assume you remember all the plot of the first movie. So, which is the unfortunate thing of these box sets, is like basically you remember and go, he did a lot of money at the end of the first movie, where did it all go? So, there is that. These are all entertaining films, but they're all kind of disposable in their own way. They're not top level like spaghetti westerns. I mean, I've watched Requisite just after I watched these films, and Requisite is so much better in every possible way, and so much more interesting. And it's just a difference of intent and invention. But these are fun films too. I mean, the thing is, they're all about an hour 45 minutes, and all should be an hour 30. That's the big problem with all these films, is they're all like 15 minutes too long. And you can tell where they could have lost stuff. It's just like there's pacing issues in them that are like... These are slight stories, and sometimes the one twist too many, or they have scenes that go on for too long, or they're enjoying too much showing how bad the villain is. And they've always got these plots where you've got Sabata versus another guy who could be trustworthy, who might not be trustworthy, who ultimately, you shouldn't trust too much. But they're all fun though. That's the thing. They're fun movies. But the Lee Van Cleef ones are better. Because Lee Van Cleef feels comfortable in the genre. Because he'd already done the Sergio Leone films. He'd already done some other films in the genre as well. So by the time he got to Sabata, he was a well-experienced spaghetti western movie star. So it was like one of those situations where he was Lee Van Cleef essentially, whatever film he was in. They liked Lee Van Cleef. So that's what he played. He played Lee Van Cleef, or the Lee Van Cleef that had been Colonel Mortimer, or Angel Eyes, and for Sergio Leone, whatever version it worked for the film. but it wasn't like he was being like asked to, you know, show range. I mean, Lee Van Cleef is good with a dry humour, and that's what they stick to. Situations allowed for dry humour. Is Sabata loves gadgets, so basically the filmmaker loves having gadgets in the film, and even if it's Yul Brynner or Lee Van Cleef playing that part, it's basically a guy who likes gadgets and a con man escapade. That's it. That's the movies. That's why they just feel like a trilogy in some weird way. There's like it's a trilogy of three movies that are very similar but have some differences. So basic plot. It's just like they all kind of came together in my head with what I talked. I had to look at the plots again, and even now, after looking at the plots for 5 minutes, I've started to come back congeal again in my head because they're so basic. It's basically there's a villain that Sabata's trying to take out. That normally, the first one rules over a town, and the third one rules over a town. He's doing some con man moves. You've got like in the first one, you've got a banjo player who's going between Sabata and the bad guys, and he's manipulating the situation as the bad guys are trying to steal money and get away with it, and Sabata's doing his own thing. And I mean, Lee Van Cleef said the Sabata films were fairly easy gigs. They weren't very demanding on you. You know, it was a bit of fun. They were fun films to make, but that was as far as it went. And it was like, yeah, you can see how you watched them. Like he's not giving it his all. He's just having fun with it. And the villain, the banjo guy, the William Bertrand, he's having fun as well. So it's just like actors having fun. There's a typical like fat sidekick of Sabata who's the comic relief who Sabata gets in most of these movies. You've got the guys who can do the big trampoline stuff because Paradino loved circus stuff, and he had all these people who could do all these tricks, like high jump tricks and things that he put in like multiple scenes in the film, which makes it different from the other films. Other spaghetti west, no one else does these, so it makes it fun, but also reminds you like, don't take this too seriously. He's got villains who are just awful people in every possible way. They're just terrible. You know, and the first one is just this guy who's like the money man for the whole operation, who's just a total hypocrite and really pretentious, and has all these elaborate ways to kill people, and very enjoyable to watch. The second one, it's like basically a war chest trying to keep control over the West, well, with the Spanish and all the rest of it. Was it Spanish or the Germans? I can't remember. It's foreigners anyway. It's evil foreigners doing their evil thing. I cannot remember. It was just it may have been some other people. I think it may have been, was it Dutch? But it was just baddies who are foreigners. They were killing the poor Mexicans, and it was over the Mexican border, and it was ridiculous, and there was loads of double crosses, and Yul Brynner was wearing a really campy, costume. But it's a lot of fun. There's a character in this one also who works for both parties, both sides, and he's double crossed everyone to try and get the money, and Sabata's wise to him, and he's trying to keep his chaos in mind. You've also got all of these other revolutionaries are wondering, when we steal the money, should we keep it ourselves or give it to the revolution? See, all these things going on. So it's a cynical world. The third one, Return of Sabata, is basically these criminals trying to fool the people, and they've got all these taxis, and it starts off a really great scene with Sabata is a part of a travelling circus, and you think he's getting hunted down. It turns out he's in a show. So there's all these things going on. I think the taxis was the first one. I was like, I can't remember. They all just come together. They're just all basically feel like one big film. So because there's one of them where people were basically getting taxed to death. But there's all sorts of, ridiculous things going on throughout the films, and there's all sorts of explosions and mines getting blown up and everything else, and They're very enjoyable films, but they are kind of ridiculous, and that's what's fun about them. But they're not as memorable as the events in the Dollars trilogy. The Dollars trilogy has events that actually have stakes throughout the story. So even those double crosses, you remember the actual story logic. And this one is twist upon twist upon twist. So there's no actual story to get your head around. It's just like con men try to con each other. So it feels a little bit less weighty. But it's still enjoyable. These are still fun movies. It's just that don't try and remember them a few weeks later, because you will not. You'll remember bits of them. You remember moments. You will not remember the characters, or you will not remember the actual plots. I mean, the first one has a really fun final shootout at the villain's lair. Like this villain's lair that turns up in so many spaghetti westerns. It's like the rent-a-villain, location. But this one does some fun with it, and it's very enjoyable films, but there's nothing really to them. But if you have time, if you still feel that you need to see more spaghetti westerns, this one's a good investment. It's B level, but they're fun. So I hope you enjoyed this rambling video about free disposable films. But yeah, go watch them. So I'll see you all later. Right, that's me for now. Right, bye.